Now, I'm sure you guys are aware, I've been going through a lot of essays on Reddit, on Twitter, and then people are complaining about male gaze, female gaze, and stuff like that, right? So, very complex issue that's going on right now. But there's a new study that apparently counter modern industry talking points because women love playing as highly sexualized characters. New study. Alright?
You're leaving in front
So
of
this
me.
is going to be a
Don't
bit more
blame me
complex,
when
right?
Something goes missing.
So let me mute the noise here first. Voice in the background. Okay, article is quite long. So let's see what this is all about, right? Isn't this character from Soul Calibur? I'm not sure. So for years, the more terminally online among the mainstream Western video game industry, from developers to journalists to even players, have loudly proclaimed that not only are sexualized female characters somehow harmful to society, but that actual real-world women also find such designs outright appalling. However, according to the new research, these pearl-clutching claims could not be further from the truth. Okay, you can see Terry Bogard has questions from Mai Shirano about his new appearance in SNK Heroines. Very interesting. So let's try and get a better perspective, right? Chicks are using male gaze and are gooners. Women gooners are crazy. Study finds video games with sexualized content do not cause misogynistic attitudes or body image issues. Outed by Ohio State University, Assistant Communications Professor Teresa Lynch, with help of OSU PhD students Annie Dooley and Matthew R. Exreleben, entitled the title is Examining How Sex Appeal, Cues and Strength Cues Influence Impressions of Female Video Game Characters. This study sought to examine whether or not a sexualized female character having strong personality traits, as in the Hollywood definition of a strong female character, would help them be more likable by general players. Okay, so basically trying to make the female characters in the video game likable, right? That's the key term right here, right? I think it's important to understand how gender socialization and prejudice like sexism inform video game development and player experiences. Okay? Official art of swimsuit layer. Okay, this is from Mega Man X Dive. So there's this sexism pervades gaming, she argued. Okay? For example, game content overwhelmingly features male characters to the exclusion of central female or gender minoritized characters. Games that do feature female or gender minoritized characters often unfavorably stereotype and objectify these groups. In online gaming experiences, men and boys target women, girls, and gender minoritized individuals with sexist and harassing communication. Okay? I think this is true, right? I've seen some girl that plays Valorant and they get harassed, right, because they are girls. It is something that you see. Guys targeting girls is, like harassing people is, it happens for sure, right? I want to know more about why, when, and how these kind of outcomes happen. At the same time, many women and girls and people who identify outside of the binary enjoy gaming a great deal. I count myself among them. Understanding why these people enjoy games, in spite of or even because of the challenges sexism presents in gaming, is fascinating to me. This study is one part of answering those big questions. Alright? So 4 distinct types of female characters using Bandai Namco's Soul Calibur 6. Each character was customized to represent one of the 4 combinations of sexualization and strength. High sexualization with high strength, high sexualization with low strength, low sexualization with high strength, and low sexualization with low strength. So 4 different criteria. Characters designed with high sexualization had features associated with previous research on sexualized portrayals: larger boobs, lower waist to hip ratios, and revealing clothing. He further explained the methodology. Characters with low sexualization cues, on the other hand, displayed modest proportions and less revealing attire. Strength cues were also manipulated, where high strength characters were larger, more muscular, and carried bigger weapons. In contrast, low-strength character has smaller physics and less imposing weaponry. Ah, wow. Using this create a CAC, the team ran 2 separate experiments. Oh, this is from Nikkei, right? Mary in Nikkei. So in the first 239 undergraduate students, all of them between the ages of 18 years old to 51. 18 to 51 years old, and there's 239 of them. Very interesting. I think that's a pretty big sample size if you ask me, right? That's enough to deem this credible, right? Majority of them are women, okay? Were shown brief gameplay clips of each respective CAC engaging in the fight, and afterwards asked them to rate them across several dimensions such as perceived sexualization, if the character's attire seemed revealing, strength, their perceived physical power, femininity, alignment with traditional feminine traits, and likability, how much participants would enjoy playing as the character, as well as note whether or not they would be ever interested in playing the character in the game. Okay. As a result, the team found out that supposedly strength cues were added to a sexualized character did little to override said character's sexy perception. At the end of the day, on the other hand, characters with high sexualization were viewed as more traditionally feminine, yet they were also less liked, particularly by female participants. Interesting, alright. 51-year-old Gunnar? What do you mean? Strength cues, by contrast, did not independently influence likability. Okay, so likability is not influenced by strength. It suggested that the perception of likability may be more influenced by sexualization than physical strength. So meta doesn't matter. Out of 239 people right here, they said, we don't care about how strong a character is. We care about how sexy they are. So it's all about the huge. It's all about the massive. Nobody cares about a dude being meta. In throwing a wrench into their assumed outcomes, the team also discovered that when given the choice, it was actually the female players who often preferred characters with high femininity traits, which is highly associated with higher sexualization cues, while men are the one that pick characters that were strong yet less sexualized. So the girls don't care about meta. The girls care about how the character looks, while the guy cares more about meta. The guys are meta whores. Very interesting. Unfortunately, rather than view this result as positive, the discussion over sexualized characters is all but non-existent. Let's move on to the new topic. Lynch instead felt that they instead showed just how ingrained social beauty standards were in the minds of younger women. Ooh, this is from Nexon, right? Was surprised by the fact that participants in the studies disliked the sexualized female characters. I think among younger generations who have grown up with social media and intuitively understand how media perpetuate impossible beauty standards, there's increasing scrutiny and critique around sexual objectification. That said, I was surprised to see that in our first study, women still selected the most sexualized character when asked which character they would choose to play. She continued, "It's important to remember that this character was also rated as the most feminine as well. So it's possible that women were just selecting the character they most identified with." However, this finding highlights why this research is important. If women are conflating sexual appeal with femininity, then they can dissociate those two concepts. And if entertainment media like video games continue to portray female characters by emphasizing sex appeal, how does that shape expectations of women and women's value in society? Okay. Is this from Capcom? Yeah. With these findings in hand, we did a second experiment. This time we asked 430 players, undergraduate students across the same demographics, to offer their thoughts on the 4 CACs after playing a match with each of them, rather than just watching clips of them in action. So they actually play the game rather than watching the clips this time, right? According to their responses, high-strength characters were rated as more competent, but also less warm personally. Female participants viewed high-strength characters as more competent compared to low-strength characters, while this difference was not significant among male participants. This last finding is particularly notable because it torpedoes the idea that men do not like strong female characters, instead showing that qualities are not as important to male players as a given character's personality or play style. Okay. So they are using fighting game as a benchmark right here, right? I'm a waifu meta slave. Wow. If people use video games for the mental, they need help. I don't know, right? It's an interesting study regardless. It can involve you in a way that simultaneously makes you feel like you're part of the content and the game, that you are the character. If you are a character that has attributes that you appreciate and enjoy embodying, then you probably will experience some positive outcomes and interpret the experience similarly. Because games require you to engage in action, you may find distinct things enjoyable in games compared to less interactive experiences like watching movies. So instead of just seeing a hero defeat a horrible villain on screen, you feel part of the experience of vanquishing that villain. That can be really awesome. But if the character has attributes that aren't so great, maybe they are sexually objectified or portrayed as cute but helpless, then that stands to diminish you in the same way that the heroic portrayal elevated you. Our findings suggest that people are paying more attention to the powerfulness of female characters who they can play as, whereas this factor wasn't so important when they were just watching the game video. Being able to translate those characteristics of visual portrayal into actions, the player was actually taking shape the experience. Holy how, okay, we are almost done. This is quite a long article, right? So one big point is that we know that other content elements such as backstory and narrative can influence the way people understand the character's portrayal, alright? In long term, we are trying to understand longer term effects of interactions with female characters in games. We are interested in understanding beyond initial impressions and looking at how distinct interactions with characters through story or varying modes of play might disrupt or strengthen effects. We are also interested in understanding the positive impact of female characters on players, not just the drawbacks and negative side. People play video games because they like them and find the experiences entertaining, but also because they have meaningful experiences. We're exploring that side of things because it's all part of the same question. While Lynch seems dedicated to truly delving into this topic until the research aligns with her predetermined assumptions, for general players, these results should be taken as proof positive that the entire counter debate against sexy female characters is for the most part fueled less by reality and more by self-important pearl clutching. Okay? Alright. So basically, the study proves that women actually likes playing as highly sexualized characters. Too much yapping? Maybe it's a bit too much, but it is important for the study, right? It is important for the study. So there's that. There's that into equation. Very, very important. I think it's a cool article overall. If you guys want the link, right here it is.